Hi, I'm Andrew Armstrong. Welcome to the Back Office Teardown Lab. I'm getting right into it today because I've got this GoTek, which you've seen me play with in a previous episode, and it's the one which has the mods for the sound and things like that. And I made this the other day, which is a extension lead for the joystick and mouse, and you might have seen this because I did a video on it and where I stuck it on the side of the case, and that was great. And you can see it's still sharp and dangerous because I did that. But I'm really determined now to see if I can just sort of join it with this GoTek, and I've been sort of studying it, and I kind of think maybe, just maybe, I might be able to get it in this right hand edge. You could certainly get it in where the screen goes, but you can see on the back of the PCB of the screen's only this proportion really. You've got this extra bit of this PCB, so it's really hard to resight this internally in this case, although you could chop up your Atari ST and mount the whole screen elsewhere, and actually probably even take these switching buttons away so you can actually just have the whole, you know, what disk image you are with it somewhere else. I think I'd just probably put the display though somewhere, you know, near the keyboard, and I'd have looked at the keyboard. It would be possible to sort of grind down the keyboard so it'd be really thin so that the LEDs would hopefully shine through. I mean, that's your best hope, but the Atari keyboard plastic's really thick. The whole case plastic's pretty thick. But yeah, you could whittle it away so you could have this literally shine through the keyboard so you can see the numbers, and then just reach around the side and push these to adjust it. I think that would work quite nicely. So yeah, you could do that. And if you do that, then it's easy. You can just plop this port literally, well, this end rather, straight in, and you're done. You've got a side-mounted joystick. But I'm going to try to maintain the integrity of this. And sorry, Methanoid, I know this is your unit that you're going to put in an external case one day. So yeah, I'll buy another one of these, and you can have the case. So let's just see what we've got here. So this is the ribbon cable, and you can see how that's been nicely pre-soldered at the factory. That's the end we need to mount. Not a problem, we can do that. So, just eyeballing this, it looks like we can get away with it. We would just need to do something like this. You can see this shape. We're not going to put the screw nubbins in. We're going to have to glue this in because there's no way you're going to be able to get this in with those screws. So I'm going to just get a marker and we'll mark out where we're going to cut. Yeah, this GoTek logo is giving me some grief and I'm trying to mark it, so I'm going to see if we can just slice the logo off. Cool, look at that. The letters of the logo are actually coming away. So you could glue those back on somewhere else if you really wanted to. Sorry, GoTek. This is no longer a GoTek creation. This is a back office hack. You are now being erased from history. There, that's a bit smoother. Still just about see it in the right light. So we've got our marker pen. So looking at it, you don't want to go too near the edge. I'll put a dot so you can see. You don't go there, and you don't want to go about here because that's the kind of extent of the plastic. So you've not got much to play with. So if you look at one of these things, yeah, we can chop away quite a lot of the metal. So this is quite slim, so as long as you can fit that, you'll be able to fit it in. So just don't fit it. Make sure you're within these couple of accents. Oh, I didn't notice this dot before. What that was for, that wee little dot. Oh well. Maybe that's... Oh, that dot is telling us exactly where we should mark the middle of our joystick port. Thank you, GoTek. You must have predicted that people will be wanting to do this, and you've conveniently done that for us. Wonderful. So the holes are pretty generic. You can see it's not shaped as a D, it's just a kind of a square, a rectangle. So we're going to try to attack this. I'm thinking with a Dremel, but let me have a look around my box and we'll see how we're going to get rid of that. Right, I'm going to go for this burr. It's not really kind of the ideal tool, but I kind of think I can plunge it in there and wiggle it around and sort of clear that out. Pretend I'm extracting a sort of tooth pulp so I can put in a filling. So yeah, excuse the noise. we have a bit of an outline there, so I'm just going to sort of try to clear off the excess material so you can see that. It's unfortunately hardened, and I've done a little bit of a scratch there. Oh dear. So I'm just going to work that. You can see I've just kept it inside the line, and I'm just going to go around a couple of laps. Won't take long, bear with me. Clear this off before it causes me some calamity. Unfortunately, if you have a lump of plastic on the end like that, what will happen is it will tend to make the holes bigger, because the plastic itself will get hot and start melting the plastic around it. Just started to happen a little bit. Tackle this one before it goes awry. Nice! I'll just give this one last clean, and then we'll clean up the hole, and we'll see how we're going to fit the other bit in. There, I think that's pretty good. If you're doing this yourself, by the way, don't do it freehand like I was doing. Just make sure you've got it clamped in sort of on a bench or something, because if you've got the tool in one hand and the piece in another, you've just basically got no stability at all on either end of that system. So you're gonna get a wonky hole, and this hole is pretty good considering how I was holding it. But yeah, you'll get it better than that. So that fits fine. That's good. That's a good sign that fits. But clearly, it's not going to fit all of its metal work. So we need to find a way of sort of removing the metal work. And I'm going to show you something just to sort of as a warning. I'm going to put my soldering iron on. If you're doing this, you can see that these actually come in two stamped halves. Yeah. I'll just let the camera focus. The front half and the back half, and they're stamped together, and they're held together by the hole. So through the hole, it's actually been pressed. There's a stamp press. So once we cut these away, this whole thing will fall apart, and that'll be not good for you. So what you want to do is, I'm just heating up the soldering on the side. I'm just going to try to run a bead of solder along the edge. And if that'll take, then that's great, and that'll save us some bother. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can have a look at that while I'm doing that. Don't miss this step if you can. If you've got the solder, you've got the bits, just do this. It's just going to save you some heartache going forward. So we're warm now. So I'm just going to hold the soldering iron on the edge for a little while just to let it sort of get some heat through, and then I'm just going to touch it. And yeah, there's some solder is flowing, so great. That will probably work out for you. And just make sure, keep a close eye on it, because you kind of want it to go in the sort of seam between the two. And you'll see when it does, it kind of just gets sucked in through sort of a capillary action. It's hard to show you, but you'll know what I'm talking about when you get down to it. You can just possibly see a very thin line between the two shells. You'll see them by eye when you're looking at it anyway. But that's where you want to try to get your solder to flow in. Like so, and that's done it nicely that side too, so that should be more than enough to keep that together. So I've got to work out how I'm going to get these apart. I'm going to you know, clearly cutting them, I think, is the answer. And I've got the sort of Dremel-y thing out, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I could have just used some nasty snips, but I do have the tools here. Unfortunately, I've got to be a bit careful with all this grit around. My cameras don't like it, and I've already scratched a lens once. Woo! Hot! In fact, that is a little bit too hot to handle. Let's try again. That's one side done, and actually that's enough to sort of test if this will fit at the moment. Let's see. Let's zoom out so the camera can actually focus. Look, that's looking pretty bloody good. That really is. So let's just repeat the exercise on the other side. Now I've got less to hold. And it's a bit more wobbly to hold, that's for sure. It's maybe I'll do it this way. Yeah, that's kind of held. Sorry if the camera's gonna sort of freak out again, not being able to focus on this. Ah, look at that. The shell actually still fell apart even after all of my fancy pantsy soldering, but that's okay. So there we go. Woo. I'm just blowing into my camera lens to try to get some of that grit out. What we're going to do is turn on the soldering iron while we're waiting for the hot glue, because I'm going to hot glue this in. I think that's hot glue's it's always the answer if you've got, whatever the question, hot glue. So we need to make sure the shell actually stays put, because that's what we're going to need to be gluing to. So I'm going to have another go at tinning that. As a test though, while I'm holding all the pieces together, yeah, that's going to be marvellous. I think that's a pretty nice job actually. Let's just hope this ribbon is long enough to get to where it needs to go internally in the Atari. That's something I didn't measure. Just sort of assumed. Don't assume if you can help it. So I've got to work out a solution now for cleaning my camera lenses when they've been coated in grit. That's the next big question for me on my channel. So I'm going to try just tinning the sort of single piece here itself first, and then I'll make sure it's tinned. Yes, it is. There we go. Ow, 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 ow. We do it when we do wires. We should do it when we do anything, really. So I guess this counts as brazing, or does brazing involve brass? Not sure really on the when you should use this terminology. Okay, so it is being difficult, and it is going to get hot, but I'm going to just do it. Ow! Oh, that is hot. That is hot. So before we go any further, let me grab the Atari mouse itself, because there is a possibility I'll misalign this, and we don't want to be misaligned. No, that's actually perfect. Good. I'll leave the mouse in while I do the... No, I won't. let's not melt this my retro mouse that are incredibly difficult, or will be incredibly difficult to buy in the future going forward. Looks like a nice little blob there holding that on. So at the back there we've got a nice gap here. We really open that out, so that gives me a really good opportunity to sort of get solder in there, and I think I will while I'm here. Got the iron out, iron's hot, let's just go for it. That port is not coming apart anytime soon, I can guarantee you. Yes, and I got some capillary action going in on the top edge. Belt and braces, look, I'm just keep going, I'm just going to keep going. This is going to withstand tons of force now. Beautiful, done. Look at that. You can't beat a nice bit of shiny solder, can you? Look at that. Doesn't that look lovely? So that's going to be... We're waiting for the sort of soldering glue gun to warm up. But I'm just looking now, we need a solution for this ribbon. It has to escape, and it wants to escape pretty quickly so it can actually get to the keyboard. And the keyboard, where it's going, sits pretty much straight in line with this. You know, it's sort of, the keyboard's down here, so we want to come straight out. I'm looking at that burr. I've got my eyes on that burr again, so I'm just going to swap it out on my rotary tool. My rotary tool, it's not a Dremel. It's a rotary tool. Yeah. I'm going to try to find a spare plug. I've got 12 plugs, I'm just counting them behind me, and all of them are full. Of course, they're always full. In for a penny, in for a pound. Let's go for it. Sorry for the noise. Couldn't be helped. Again, while we're waiting for stuff to warm up, I'm going to just plop that in there. That's a good old fit. Plenty of room. It's not going anywhere. You could consider strain relief on this if you're that bothered, but I'm not. This black thing, are we going to get rid of it? Yeah, it's not going to bother us. No, I'm just going to wedge that in there somewhere. Ah! Let's check this out. Okay, I went a bit mental there towards the end, but I think that, yeah, look at that, baby. That's going to look so cool. It'll look like a custom, you know, flange. I'm going to hot glue that in while I'm hot gluing everything else. Brilliant. Custom Kings. This is like Pimp My Ride, but for Atari ST. Hot glue. Yes, we have some hot glue starting to flow. Tricky to know how to approach this, really. I'm going to just sort of try to tack some on the edges. And hot glue, again, wouldn't be my final glue, but I'm going to use it now just because we are prototyping and it is easy to undo if we need to. That's looking pretty good. If you've got some Araldite or something, you see, you can, if you used Araldite, you could get in there and fill around all the edges and get that nice and snazzy looking. But hot glue, that's doing the trick for me today. So we don't accidentally push the port through, because it's, again, that's why your Araldite will be much better than hot glue, because it will give you a lot of sort of purchase force on the back. But I'm just going to put a blob of this where I can, just to make sure it doesn't, well, at least tries to stop the user from pushing this out. Put that in. While that glue is setting, I'm going to take this black flangey thing, and I'm just going to put a little bit on that as well. Get in there, underneath. Try to escape. Clearly not set yet. It's really... Maybe it's not a hot glueable material. It's certainly playing up. If you've got the different colour hot glue, by the way, black hot glue is often a bit better. I quite like the black hot glue, but I've run out. It's a little bit more industrial, and it goes a bit tackier, sort of harder. It's not a sort of gummy. Just going to put a little bit more here because I could see this moving around just as I was touching it. Don't think this is the ideal adhesive at all for this, but if you use enough of it, where else could it go? There's a really big blob. Right, I think we can get the case back on. There's our lid. I think we might get some trouble from our hot glues, but let's see. No, that's all sort of gone in. We've lost our little flangey thing, but you know, that's fine. It was just in there as a sort of a finesse. Screw that back together. And all that's left really is for us to pop this back in the Atari. Let's hope it all fits. So I'm just going to remove some of these more hot tools out of the work area. Job done. And let's get the Atari straight in here. And it is here. So in the meantime, you can see I've actually sort of glued in these pegs, because I don't know why, that they just sort of seem to be floating in the original design. Oh, I do believe this is going to work out nice. So there's our port. I'm just going to plug it into the keyboard on the back. The joystick I'm not worried about, because you know, really you only had to really unplug and reinsert joystick 1, which is the one that's sort of shared with the mouse, which I believe is the left one. I hope so, because that's the one I've gone for. I'm just going to route the ribbon cable to make sure it goes on the correct side. And indeed it is. I'm going to try to flip this. Bear with me. That's what you weren't expecting. You see that on there? Done. Glue a little cover over that if you're bothered. I'm not going to. I don't care. That's pretty snazzy. I like that. Yeah. What I'm going to do as well, while I'm here, I've got the glue gun's been turned off, but I think it'll still work enough for what I want. You see these black pegs? I'm just going to put a bit of glue in there on top of those, because I kind of want the drive to sit down nicely instead of jumping around like it kind of wants to do. So I basically glued the drive in. But you know it's hot glue, it's going to be easy to remove if you just yoink it. So let's pop our ribbon cable back. Get our case back on. Come on, case. Oh yeah, I didn't check that the case will fit. Yeah. One slight mod needed. I've smoothed it over with a hand file. I've actually gone over this whole area with a hand file because there was a sort of button here, if you recall, and someone had cut this to sort of fit a standard sort of PC type drive. So I've gone through and just smoothed that region. I don't think that looks too bad, and excuse me holding the camera in my right hand, it's going to be a bit wobbly, but I think we're going to be able to get quite a nice fit when this goes on. And there we have it. I think just check that all over. Yeah, I mean it's not too bad. If you wanted to, you could scallop this hole so it actually follows the contour of this port, but you don't really need to, because you'll see why. The sort of mouse will just fit straight in anyway, like that. Cover it all over, and you've got a pretty convincing looking mouse port there. So there's your sort of disk number, your USB port, and your drive selects. So I think the only thing left to do now is actually try this all out, make sure it all works. So I've got it all fired up, and I have to say I am rather pleased with this. Look, that does look pretty darn neat, and yeah, it works absolutely fine. Sorry about the light on the screen, but yeah, you can see it's all functioning, the mouse working. Can't quite check if there's a right click going on, but I no doubt there would be. Yeah, that's actually quite a neat setup. So if you sort of push it, look back at the whole Atari, that's absolutely fine. I'm really chuffed with that. Absolutely brilliant. Very pleased indeed. So the only thing that's left to sort of say really is if you've liked this video, please click like or subscribe if you're that way inclined. If you're into Atari ST, please check out my playlist. I know I've said this a few times on my earlier videos. I'm going to sort of stop saying it now. Sorry for boring you if you've already done that. I'm going to be doing more mods on the Atari ST, playing games, things like that. I'll be adding it to the playlist. If you've done some of these mods yourself, I'd love to see them. Please feel free to ping me on Twitter and send me some pictures of your fantastic Atari mods. I know mine's a bit rough. In the future, at some point, I plan on retro-brighting this, maybe when the weather's a bit nicer. And when I do, I might try to see if I can make a panel, you know, using car sort of materials, really, body filler, things like that, and see if I can get it all nice and slick and just get all those ports out on the side in a really neat way. And then again, maybe I might just leave it as is, enjoy it as it is. I didn't feel too bad about making that small mod to the case. I was sort of a bit as I was filing it away, but I feel that somebody's already modded this case, so taking that little bit extra for this mod was fine. So I hope you've exciting times with your Atari ST. Let me know, and as ever, thank you for watching.